Throughout its immense geologic history, the globe was marked by innumerable climatic upheavals. The cold periods, in blue, and the hot periods, in red, did not stop alternating. These climatic upheavals are the consequence of global variations, the eccentricity of the global orbit, the migration of the magnetic poles, and, less importantly, the volcanic activity. Naturally, these temperatures variations affected the whole globe. Here is, for example, the history of the last but one said glaciation of Riss. It began approximately 450,000 years ago by very strong general cooling. At the base of the glaciers develop landscapes of tundra, then a steppe with dominant conifers. The forests of broadleaf trees are pushed away southward. According to the millenniums, the glaciation of Riss evolves. It is here represented in speeded up motion. There are four maxima. The first one between minus 450 and minus 420,000 years, then three others at minus 350,000 years, minus 250,000 years, and minus 150,000 years. The Sahara cools, covers itself with vegetation, allowing Neanderthal man from Central Africa to cross it and to arrive in Europe. Then an established interglacial period lasting 60,000 years. Temperatures were about those which we know today, but with variations. Naturally, all Europe is affected by these vast glaciations. Here, for example, the last big glaciation, called Würm. Once more, huge thicknesses of ice recover the north and centre of the continent. There are two maxima. The first, 55,000 years ago, the second, 20,000 years ago. To become really aware of the gravity of these climatic upheavals, it is necessary to observe them more locally, for example, through the changes which affected the glacier of the Rhone in the Swiss Alps. 120,000 years ago, after the big glaciation of Riss, the Rhone glacier did not occupy more than the top of its valley, near the summit of the Alps. During the interglacial period, which lasts about 60,000 years, temperatures vary just a little bit. Then, 65,000 years ago, the big freeze begins to rage. The average temperatures between 3 to 5 degrees and the snow coverage increases considerably. The glacier begins to grow and to accumulate at the base of the cliff. 25 kilometers lower, the plain receives the contribution of the glaciers of the Aletsch and the Lotchental, which grew in a considerable way too. The huge glaciers invade the whole upstream plain of the Rhone, with some minor slowing down due to climatic variations. It will finally fill the plain up to the red dotted lines at 2,000 meters in height, where it has left tracks. Here it is arriving at the Leman Lake. The bank at that time is still slowly decreasing. Sediments will push away at the time of the thaw. The small island is engulfed in the ice without being pushed aside. It will reappear at the time of the thaw, slightly marked by the glacier. View on the Leman Lake from the heights of the Mont Saleve above Geneva. The glacier flows on the lake, creating huge waves, sliding one onto the others. The northern branch passes behind the Mont Tendre. On the Jura, an ice cap is accumulating progressively. The glaciers coming from the Alps are added to the mass of the Rhone glacier and recover the end of the lake, where, much later, will be the city of Geneva. Seen by the summit of the Mount Sileva, the glaciers accumulate and push together into the valley of the Rhone downstream. The glacier is still growing in the downstream plain of Rhone. It is enlarged by the contribution of ice coming from the east wall of the Alps. They bypass the ice cap of Jura and move in the direction of the Lyon region. The glacier at its maximum 35,000 years ago. All the Swiss plain is totally covered. The thicknesses of ice is considerable. Here they are expressed in meters. 35 millenniums ago, a first global warming causes the partial melting of the glacier. The river, at this moment in flood, demolishes barrages created by the former frontal moraines which remained under the ice. This rubble caused most probably terrible waves of water which go downhill abruptly in the plain to the Mediterranean Sea. "28 millenniums ago, taking advantage of the warming, human inhabitants settled down in the region. They are the Neanderthal men. Here they are in the mouth of the Rhone, seen from the Leman Lake. The upstream plain is still under the ice. 24 millenniums ago begins a new cooling. The Neanderthal man migrate into the south of France and into Spain. From Asia comes the modern man, the sapiens, or the man of Cro-Magnon, with his bow and his arrows, finishing man's installation in Europe. 15,000 years ago, the planet warms itself very quickly. The glaciers decrease. In the plain of Rhone, the Saint-Trifons small hill emerges from the decreasing glacier. At random topographic irregularities, temporary lakes form in front of the glacier. This hill was covered up by all the glaciations. It emerges from them almost intact. It is thus that these glaciers are unable of many to change the landscapes. And the deglaciation quickly continues. As a result of the enormous disappearance of colossal masses of ice, the level of oceans rise 100 meters approximately. This big glaciation ends 9,000 years ago. It has lasted 60,000 years, 30 times longer than Christianity. After the disappearance of warm ices, a long, very hot period begins in Europe. It's the one in which we actually live. At the beginning, the difference of temperatures between Indian Atlantic Oceans creates a kind of monsoon. It blows on the Sahara, which grows green and becomes populated with animals. 5,000 years ago, a gentle cooling extends in all Europe and in the Alps and precedes a new reheating. Then, cold settles down during 400 years. Because of the cold and of the snow, vegetation leaves the summits. Then comes the time of the Roman Empire. Between -300 and +300, it is characterized by an exceptionally hot period, even more important than today. In 208 BC, Hannibal crossed the Alps at the end of the winter, maybe by the St. Bernard Pass. There are still no roads, and he is accompanied by 37 elephants, of which 20 will survive the journey. A small cooling period comes between year plus 300 and year plus 500. Then it is the Middle Age. The weather is once again very hot between year 500 and the year plus 1150. The disappearance of the glacier shows an irrigation system, and the land was thus cultivated. In the north, Vikings discover and live in Greenland, which was livable and cultivable. There are vines, and winemaking is possible in England. In this period, human society was probably inequitable, but rather prosperous to give men the means to construct Gothic cathedrals in all Western Europe. Between year 1300 and year 1400, a very cold episode stops this easy life period. Then the weather becomes hot till the 16th century. In year 1575, King Henry III of France crossed the Alps with his carriage. About year 1580, a hard cold period descended. The glaciers increase and the population becomes frightened. The church organises processions to ask the heavens to bring back a little heat. A moderate heating then comes. But, one more time, since year 1720, a new period of cold begins. Harvests decrease in Europe, people are hungry and will eventually rebel. Around the year 1800, in the Alps, Napoleon's armies will have many difficulties crossing the Alps because of the amount of snow. Since year 1820, before the industrial time, climate reheating is general. Glaciers decrease and the harvests are plentiful. And then the modern period comes. It is characterized by a succession of warm and cold in the order of 0.5 to 1 degree.
Quant à prévoir les évolutions futures de la température du globe, il faut savoir que la climatologie est une science encore très jeune, extrêmement compliquée et mystérieuse, et qu'elle nécessitera encore beaucoup de recherches pour être vraiment comprise. D'autre part, les controverses scientifiques sont actuellement tellement agressives que je préfère attendre au moins 1000 ans pour essayer d'expliquer honnêtement les variations de température à venir. De toute façon, il faudra bien s'y adapter.